All right, and it started. Hey, friends and family, Dennis over in the YouTube land. Welcome to another episode of the Money Lab. As usual, we're about a minute away from starting out, but we always want to start off on YouTube first so that YouTube can propagate. Oh, that's funny.
What just happened?
Yeah, so the computer started playing. We were monitoring it, so we got to hear ourselves. I got to hear myself repeat myself. That was awesome. All right, so basically, this is our guest today, Mr. Chi Ni. We're going to talk a little bit more about him, but do a quick little intro of yourself to the audience here at YouTube watching.
Wait. I always wanted to do this. Welcome to KWEI, live with their host, Wei Hong.
I just realized, KWEI, you just put my name in there.
Good catch.
That was awesome. All right, cool. Well, quiet on the set. We're about to fire it up on the Spreaker side for those that aren't watching on YouTube. And so, shh, quiet. We're going to fire this up. Okay. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay. Live. Okay, welcome to the Money Lab live podcast, episode number 53, the All Rich People Are Bad story. All right, welcome back to another live broadcast of the Money Lab podcast from the Six Figure Academy. I am your host, Wei Hong, from the Six Figure Academy. And this is the podcast where we give you tips, strategies, and interviews with other entrepreneurs on how to create the ultimate six-figure entrepreneurial lifestyle free of bad money stories, money anxiety, and stress so that you can monetize your dreams and execute your genius. Now, if you haven't already downloaded our free ebook, From Money Anxiety to Six Figure Master, make sure you go to go.thesixfigureacademy.com and get it there. It's the perfect complement to all the things we discuss on this show. And quite frankly, we've been told it could change your life. Now, if you are joining us live today and you are not on YouTube Live, checking out my hot guest here, make sure you get on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app on your mobile device and search for the hashtag The Money Lab so that you can join us in the chat room and ask questions, interact with us and our guest, or even request a specific topic to discuss that will help support you in your quest for the ideal six-figure lifestyle. And if you're a parent today tuning in, make sure you tune in to ask the questions because we've got a bona fide teacher right here. So while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and can catch us every single week. For all of the ways to find us, go to sixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. And if there's something that you love about what you hear on this episode today, even while you're listening to it live, and then you know that it could help someone who you care about, remember, sharing is caring. So share the show to that person. All right? So welcome to the show. Yay.
Oh, that was not good.
Yeah, I just spilled water all over the unit. Hold on.
All right, I'm going to take over while Wei deals with the technical snafu. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Chi Ni, and I'm...
All right.
Well, he's back. All right. Now I'm handing back over to our host.
Hopefully it's okay. Worst case scenario.
Water goes well with electronic equipment, right?
It always does.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, this is why I was thinking about getting this bottle to drink this because it's like a total product placement thing, and this is what I get.
First party foul.
Yeah, party foul for today. Okay, cool. So for those of you who are joining us and have seen our show before, you'll notice there's a little bit of difference. We're playing with some cool stuff. They're obviously green screening this, but it's kind of it's a Redondo Beach background. You couldn't tell?
I couldn't tell. I was so busy looking at the difference between the actual picture that you showed on the on your I showed on my Facebook page versus how I look now. So it's all because of the green screen. That's
the green screen
difference.
It just makes you look like a it's like men age well, like the whole. Well, I mean, I don't know, not all men age well. I don't know what I'm talking about here.
Nice recovery way.
Anyway, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money. I want to introduce my guest today. He came into the office, so we have a chance to sit down next to each other to be on YouTube live. Mm-hmm. And remember, if you have any questions that come up at all, and if you're on Spreaker, for example, you can go to the the chat screen on Spreaker on your phone, or you can go to YouTube and just lay the comments on, because Chi is here to answer those questions. But just to give you an idea of who Chi actually is, I've known Chi for several years now, a really long time actually over a decade now. It looks
keep going.
And I call him the magic man. Why? Because there's a variety of things that he does. Primarily, he actually has a business that helps teach students about leadership. And he has a very unique approach, so I'm really excited. But I first met Chi actually in volleyball. He's another one of my volleyball friends. My volleyball network is so diverse. There's so many cool people in my volleyball community. But what's cool is, and for those of you who are listening from that volleyball community, feel free to come in at any time and ask a question.
Hi.
Say hi. We're looking at all the screens we have in terms of chats, so don't hesitate to say say a few things. But anyway, so I wanted to bring him on the show because, one, he's an entrepreneur and he is of the same culture. So we kind of speak the same language when it comes to our motherland.
I thought you meant the language of leadership.
The language of leadership. Oh yeah, we talk about that too. But we're both Chinese. And as such, we probably share some similarities in our money story. So, so welcome to the show, Chi.
Thank you for having me, man. This is awesome. This is, I have students that want to be YouTubers, and now I can tell them I'm on YouTube. I mean, I'm really on YouTube, and in this full studio setup, and this is really cool. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit about, I mean, this is the Money Lab, and we always talk about the money story and everything like that. But let's talk about first what it is that you do, because I probably didn't do it enough justice. You know, the fact that you change kids' lives and you help kids from other countries learn what it's like to be successful here in the U.S. or become leaders in the U.S. and everything like that. So, and despite that, I still don't think I did it justice in terms of what it is that you do from a business standpoint.
Well, I guess my money story started like all money stories started when I was little, and my mother, is a single mother, and she worked very hard to make sure that I had all the necessities. But one of the, I guess, subliminal messages that I learned from her, which was that having money is a bad thing, and the people that have money, they got their money because they done it in shady ways, and they took advantage of people, you know.
Did you, and how did she say that to you? Did she like teach it to you, or did she like lecture, or did she just through observation, that through common?
It was through observation. I mean, this I guess still resonates with me now, is that when we used to go to McDonald's, we used to take just tons and tons of napkins, and I recall.
Oh my God! I just got a major flashback. My mom did the same thing.
Holy cow! This is her purse Asian thing.
Her purse was full of napkins,
and I remember I asked her why we were taking all the napkins, and we never bought any napkins at home. Most of our napkins was from most of the fast food or most of the restaurants, and if I remember correctly, she said that it's because we already paid for it in the meals that we place, and they charge a lot of money, so we're allowed to
at McDonald's.
At McDonald's, yes. I mean, I was little at the time, so I wasn't doing econ calculations or anything like that. And I said, "Oh, okay."
Holy cow! This is such a it's bringing up so many memories all of a sudden. I had no idea this is still sitting in my psyche.
We might have to have a sit-down session after this to clear some of that up. But I think it was obviously it was inadvertently relayed to me, as opposed to I don't recall her ever saying rich people or people with money are bad people. But I could tell from a lot of the things that we were doing, it was like it's okay. It was rationalized, and so it ingrained into me that, okay, well, if something is worth a lot of money, then I'm okay helping myself to other things that wasn't part of the original agreed services. And so it was until recently that I discovered that was an internal messaging that I had inside of me. and that it was okay because and this is actually an old famous Chinese saying. It says that
what old famous Chinese sayings? We can't allow that on here. What are you talking about?
It said that money isn't everything. By the way, I'm saying in English, obviously. They don't say that in Chinese. But money isn't everything.
No, you could say, money isn't everything. That's Chinese.
That's bad Chinese.
That's bad Chinese.
Money isn't everything, but without money, you can't do anything. And so, and that is really struck sort of a nerve, which is in order to help people. I mean, you don't have to have money. I mean, there are people that without money, they help you in other ways. But it is a tool. I mean, that's all it really is. And so money itself is a tool, and how you use that tool really sort of dictates how you can see that.
So how did you break away from that? I mean, well, let's talk about how that impacted. I mean, basically what you walked away with growing up is that people with a lot of money are shady, bad people, right? So how did you break away from that so that you didn't continue? I mean, well, first of all, how did that impact you growing up?
How much time do we have?
No, I mean, okay, how long has it been since you've been an entrepreneur?
Let's see, probably, I think I've had the entrepreneurship for, over a decade, but I really didn't act upon it because, like I said, it felt like if I was going to become this entrepreneur, I would become one of these people that was going to be successful. And with that success could potentially come more income. And I just put myself in that hole with all these quote unquote bad people. And so, but one of the things when I first started teaching students, I loved it. It was a very fun thing. I remember one of the first stories that got me into education was I helped a young girl who was in 6th grade, I believe, and she had a C when she first came to me, and I helped her out. And then one day I ran into her in the supermarket with her mom, obviously, and she was excited to see me. She was like, "I have an A now," and the look on her face, the smile on her face was just amazing.
Yeah, and
it really made my day. And I was like, "This is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. I want to change lives, and I'm good at teaching, so let's do that." And as I started that, I started feeling bad taking people's money.
Oh. So when money started to come in as an entrepreneur, you started feeling bad.
Yeah, I was like, oh, should I just do this first one for free? And then I started finding out what was the average at the time for math tutors. I think it was around $15, $20. And I felt bad charging $20 because I was rationalizing it to myself. Well, I just started. I don't have that much experience. I'm not, maybe what I do, it was only helpful to one person and maybe it won't work for everyone. So can I really? Oh,
so all the self-doubt started to come in.
Oh, definitely.
Questioning. Now that actually is a form of money anxiety, because all of a sudden you're starting to attach the amount of money that you take to the value of what you provide, despite the fact that you're getting results, right?
Right.
Wow.
And so, and then after I've done it for a few years, then obviously starting my own business, I have costs. I would print things out for my students. I would spend the time to build materials. I would do a lot of things that I wasn't charging the clients for. And I realized that now I'm not worth $15 from now. I'm actually worth more.
Right.
But how much more?
That is the question.
Because 25 is more than the average. Am I more than the average? I feel bad because the first time I said 25, I got a weird look from the parents. Like, really?
Wait, $25 what?
Per hour.
Per hour?
Per hour.
Okay.
And the parent looked at me like, oh, that's more than, and then I'll be like, oh, you know what? That's okay. Since I know you, we'll keep it at 15.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't that minimum wage now?
Now? But this was like, we'll just say a few years ago. And so that really made me anxious whenever I got a new client.
Oh.
Because, do I charge them? Because they're new, they don't know what I charge. So could I charge 25? But 25 is still more than the average at the time.
Right.
And I knew that was good because the results I was getting, the parents were really appreciative of that. The kids loved it. The kids were doing well. And I love doing what I was doing, but it was like pulling your own teeth, because I was like,
you pull your own teeth? I don't know anybody who pulls their own teeth.
Not for $25 an hour.
Maybe somebody on that movie Jacket.
Yeah. So it took me a very long time to finally start understanding my own self-worth and understand that my services, what I charge is not based on that I can do this for everyone, because not every single person wants necessarily be helped. Not every single student.
What did you learn? Did you learn that through experiencing what you ended up coming across while you were out there working, or was it something that you learned just through kind of like someone telling you, it's like, hey, not everybody wants to be helped. You know, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it to drink. You know, make it to drink. You can't make it to drink.
That doesn't make it better, right? So the answer to your questions is yes. Yes to everything. I was very fortunate in college. I was part of an amazing group called the Resident Advisors, and our resident dean, he really started me down this path of leadership and self-improvement, and it opened up my world to a lot of books, a lot of different speakers and so forth. And I remember going to see a speaker down in Irvine, and at that time I was single. I was living on my own. But to drive all the way down to Irvine to listen to someone speak at that time, I was like, man, that must be crazy. But I was like, first of all, it's a free event, and that was okay. You know, when I was growing up, free events are fine, but paid events, you know, there's inherent cost to that, so you have to do all the calculations. But when I listened to him and I started going down this path of self-improvement, I did start to understand that what I'm doing is helping people.
Right.
And I can't help people unless I help myself first and make sure that my well-being is taken care of.
Yeah.
So
that's such a cool statement. You know, how important is that? Because, you know, I encounter this all the time when I'm out networking and everything. And I find people who are, you know, trying to build their business and everything like that. And when we talk about personal development, self-improvement, self-awareness, all these different things that I find, I always tout from my end at the Six Figure Academy, like one of the most important things you can do as an entrepreneur is to work on yourself, because if you don't grow, then your business doesn't grow. But from your perspective, not because, you know, how important is that? I mean, how, you know, because you experienced that process as well.
How much time do we have? Well,
all the time in the world.
Well, what I've, as you've alluded to earlier on, Wei, which was that straight A consulting was established because as I was working with kids, I was discovering that a lot of the kids, they came to me because their parents really wanted them to. Let's say it that way.
Right.
But basically, they
force it.
Yeah. And if that was the case, there wasn't really much I could do. And because of that, I started learning that all this things that I was sharing with them, it wasn't getting through. And I was essentially wasting my own time as well as theirs.
Right.
And the worst part of that about that is at some point, the parent would not see any improvement. And then they would be like, well, you know, this isn't working out. And I realized it was affecting my own reputation and so forth. So through that, I discovered that I need ways to communicate to the kids.
There's only one way, by the way. You don't need multiple ways. Just one.
Just find one specific way. And so I started doing things so that I can talk to the kids in their language, you know, because we're no longer kids. We're just older kids.
Just older kids that use bigger words that kids don't understand.
So, you know, back then, you know, love playing video games, love playing board games. But I took a lot of those games, and I know that's always sort of been a constant as you're a kid. So it gave me an excuse to play more video games because I could talk to them in their language, and I could at least ask them, hey, what kind of games do you play? And if it's something that I've heard of or play, then I can sort of talk to them, and then they slowly open up more. So as I was doing that, I discovered that I can't just be somebody that says, hey, I want to help you, take it. because that's not how we function as individuals. It's got to be something that we want to do. So when I first meet with a student, I will say to them, is this something you want to do? If it's not, it's great. It's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody has to be perfect in math. And if you don't want it, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time. And I actually use those words because I want the student and the parents to understand I'm really here to help you. But if you're not going to be serious about it, then let's not do it. But then once I do that, once they decide that I'm serious about this, again, I start talking to the students in their own language, in things that I'm not coming off as this older person who knows better. I mean, I subliminally put it into the messages, but I don't.
You're manipulating kids. Is that what you're doing?
Can we edit that part out?
Too bad, it's live. Okay.
So as I was doing that, like I said, I started realizing with the technology advances and just normal society advances, I need to be kept up with what was happening with the world. I can't use the things that was popular back in my days because they didn't get that, you know. I can't be talking about music that they've never heard of. So I needed to further my own. I need to learn myself, and I need to remind myself what it was like to learn again, so that I understand their plight. So I would pick up, like I said, video games. I would pick up books that they were reading. I would listen to hardcore rap and then,
because that's what the kids are listening to these days.
At least the ones that I was coming across with.
So basically, you're attracting rap kids as students and clients.
Apparently so. A lot of hip hop too,
Hip hop, okay.
Hip hop, yeah.
No Enya kids.
There was some classical music. But that's to me.
But they're mostly Asian.
Well, yeah. So I wanted to really, and I started realizing that I need to be doing the things that I was preaching. If I was asking the kid to take a risk and not be afraid to make a mistake, I need to do that. So that's why I started
in the context of your life, your business,
I have a student that wanted to be a YouTuber, and I told her, well, why don't you put some YouTube videos on? And she was like, I have no idea how to do that. And I said, well, how are you going to be a YouTuber if you can't even put on a video? And so I went online myself, and I started, I had some existing footage, and I put some stuff on. And so I understood the process. I understood the basics of what it was like, so I could talk to her about that and start down the path. And definitely this helps me, and I can show my YouTuber students.
Look what we did.
Yeah,
look what I did. Yeah. Look what your teacher did.
Yeah, let me write that down on my bucket list so I can cross it off. But yeah,
you're on YouTube Live.
I know it's cool.
It's exciting.
Goosebumps. But again, going back to what I was saying, the ultimately, as I'm doing these things, it hopefully helps me connect to these clients better. And what's interesting is Straight A started from purely educational consulting services for kids. But as I was talking to these students, as I was talking to these parents, and as I was doing these things myself, I discovered that everything that we're doing relates to everyone. Entrepreneurs, business individuals, solopreneurs, all these things. We need to continuously learn. And when I say learn, I'm not just talking about, math and science necessarily, but just constantly learn things and through mistakes. That's one of the biggest things, is that we've become so anti-mistakes, like it's a bad thing. And one of the things that
we don't learn anything if we don't make mistakes.
Well, like we learned that not to put water next to
electronic devices. And get too excited and talk too much with your hands when you first start opening the radio show.
So this is one of the biggest things that I enjoy taking on, which is trying different things. And when my students started learning about the Rubik's Cube, I actually learned the Rubik's Cube a long time ago, and I stopped, and I told myself, let's pick it up again, let's see what it's like. And through that, I started understanding the beauty of mistakes. I started my own Kickstarter to.
Oh, you did a Kickstarter before?
A while back, I actually created a puzzle game that my students really enjoy.
Oh.
And somebody says, why don't you why don't you make a board game out of it?
Okay.
So I did that sounds interesting. I'll look into it.
Yeah.
And I did. And I looked into it.
You took action and you did it.
No, I looked into it. And I looked into it some more. And then life happened. Oh, you know what? I forgot to look into it some more. And all of a sudden, 2 years gone by.
Right.
And I realized all I did was I looked into it. And
I know for those of you who are listening out there, I don't know how many of you, if you are listening right now and you pulled that same strategy of being the consummate look into her. Is that what we call it now? The look into her? So just looking into it?
Copyright pending.
Yeah, chime in. Let us know what you've been looking into and you haven't taken. Or if you're even listening to this after the fact, okay, make a comment about what you've been looking into and you know that it's an important component of what you want to do next in your business or in your life. Let us know what else you've been looking into. Oh, we have people from Florida saying hello.
Oh, Florida.
Hey, what's happening?
Florida. And so I said, no, I can't look into it any further. Let's do it. And of course, the whole time that I was looking into it, the reason I didn't start it was, again, that fear of failure.
Fear of failure. Where did you learn that?
I would assume my mother, again, because, everything's pretty much, I grew up with a tiger mom. So pretty much everything I learned.
Did you get punished for failing?
One of my favorite stories to tell.
Parents, listen up, because this has an impact on how your child grows up and how they regard themselves in terms of moving forward and overcoming blocks around money, success, financial success, wealth, happiness, all those different things.
So I was fourth grade, I think it was, and I've always been a straight A student. Math, however, was always, my strong point, but English, not quite so much. So I recall, I don't remember what the test was about, but I know I got a D on my test and I was terrified to go home.
D in the Chinese household, D equals death.
Yeah, pretty much. Now here's the reason. Now, for those of you that don't understand how this works, I'll tell you the other side of the story. So, as I said, math was always my strong point. So one day, out of 3 classes, I got a 99%, the highest in 3 classes. So I went home and I showed my mom, oh, look at this, I got 90%, highest in the class. And her response was, where's the last 1%? And this is
did she really say that?
She actually.
That's actually worse than my parents.
Wow.
Wow, you're 1% worse.
Yeah.
90%. Well, you know what though? They would mention, well, why not 100%?
Right.
What's going on with that?
Right. So if you can understand, that was the mentality that I always operated under, was that anything less than perfection.
Did you ever draw a line through an A- to make it an A+?
No, because I knew that would be unbelievable, because if there were marks on there. But on
the final score, like a report card or something.
I've actually thought about turning in a B. If you just make the strokes just wide enough and long enough, you might be able to get away with an A.
By the way, this is not to have your kids listen to this and give you these are little, I don't know. The only people I've heard about talking about these tactics more often than not are people who are of the same ilk, the Asian culture, if you will. So if you've done this and you're not Asian, by all means chime in, let us know, because this is just something that So I think because of us, they tried to write A- with the M under it. So you can't mess with it. I'm serious. I asked them, why is there an M under the minus now?
I've never seen that before.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's because kids were actually, our school there was a lot of Asian people in our high school. And so I guess, in an effort to not get punished, when they got an A-, they would draw I was one of those kids. We would make it so it looks like an A+, so we didn't have to answer any question. They just looked at it and say, okay, great. And then teachers started putting the M under there. So you can't manipulate the score anymore. And I was like, oh, that's just good. So when you go home with an A-, it's why is it not A+? It's such a fascinating thing. So, so growing up, obviously, the belief system of, you can't fail. All rich people are bad. I mean, there's so many things working against you in terms of keeping you from being successful as an entrepreneur. What was the turning point where you realized, this is not my story. This is not the story that I want. At what point did you decide to break it? Was it a magical thing? Before we segue into that.
Wow, that's a good question. I don't think I've ever looked at the specific turning point at which that happened. I've always...
We can narrow it down. Was it before or after you got married?
Definitely was before.
Okay.
It was definitely before, but obviously having kids added on an extra layer of...
Let's re-agitate that money story because, the only time we had any kind of learning association around kids was with our own parents, right? Because we were kids to them. And so who do we look to, right?
Right. So I like I said, I've always enjoyed these leadership courses, leadership books, self-improvement books. I don't want to promote any of your competitors, but
no, I don't care. I mean, what's a couple books that you highly recommend for entrepreneurs?
My foundation has always been 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh,
Stephen Covey. Oh, yeah.
Good one. That's a good book.
Yeah, it's great. And that's, I think that really began my journey. Just this concept of 7 habits and the concept about always self-improvement.
Right.
It's habit number 7 called sharpen the saw. And
sharpen the saw?
Yeah.
That's kind of hard because they're serrated teeth.
Yeah.
So you have to sharpen every tooth.
You could, but that's sort of the point, is that a lot of people say, well, why would I want to do that?
It's full of puns today, man.
Yeah, well, all right, Wei, you want to play this game? My friends know you will not beat me. So, or saw. The
terrible pun.
This is gonna complete turn the shark. So the whole point about sharpening the saw is that most people, they don't spend the time because they think it takes too long and it's not important. We got to get the job done. But if you don't sharpen your saw, if you don't take care of the equipment you're using, it's going to break. It doesn't matter how important the job is. It doesn't matter how much pressure you're under. If you don't sharpen the saw, it's going to take a long time to do your job, and your equipment is going to break. So it's important to stop, take time to sharpen that saw, whether it be a physical activity or a mental activity, or just to refresh yourself again, physically, mentally. All these things are spiritually. All those things are important, and then you can continue the activity, and it'll be actually easier. So this again goes back to what we were saying earlier, which is always that self-improvement, always learning, always getting better, always making mistakes so that we can learn from that mistake so we can get better.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So that's very cool. So the turning point probably happened for you before you got married, and so you've been spending basically the past several, how old are your kids now?
3. They're 3 now.
Okay. So past several years, decade and a half, basically sharpening or...
Yeah, and I think I can narrow it down. I was part of a network marketing group, and what was really nice about that group was most of these network marketing groups are very good at the self-improvement series, and just really positive energy. And I think that really started me to understand that I'm worth a lot more than what I was giving myself. Myself.
As an entrepreneur, I think almost everybody needs to. I mean, network marketing isn't for everybody, but I think one of the great things about network marketing is that it gives people an introduction if it's your first time doing network, because network marketing, it's so big on personal development, personal growth, because quite frankly, in order to succeed in network marketing, if that's your gig, you have to be honing that saw. You need to be sharpening that blade on a regular basis. Why? Because the world will come at you in so many different directions with their belief systems, with other people's bad money stories, or other people's challenges to kind of the misery love company type of approach, and keep you from breaking away and operating at the levels of the most successful people on the planet, and that's why they're so big. They realize, in order for people to succeed in network marketing, which is like one of the oldest forms of business actually in human history, you have to be constantly working on self, so Yeah. So I made a mention earlier about the magic of making that turnaround. So let's share a little bit about, let's shift gears a little bit, because you're not only just an entrepreneur where you help kids and you help them develop leadership skills and, become more successful in life. You also do magic, literally do magic.
Yes.
Now, not the black occults or anything like that, but like you're used to be a member at the Magic Castle.
That's correct.
Are you still a member there?
Not anymore. Not after I've had kids.
Oh, that's right.
Not after my wife has had kids. I did not go through that process.
Well, you contributed, I hope.
Yes.
It's not like it's a divine intervention. It's like, unless that was a magical thing that you did. My last act for the Magic Castle is to have my wife conceive without me doing anything.
Should have televised that. But yes, I got into magic when I was 8 or so. My uncle did like most kids, they had the uncle that did the magic tricks for them, and I was completely amazed and blown away. And I said, "Teach me." And of course, he says a magician never reveals his secret. And I begged and pleaded with him. I had stayed with him over the summer. On the last day, he finally showed it to me, and I was so excited. I went home and I learned the magic, and I went to school and I showed my friends, and they were like, "Oh, that's awesome! Do another one." And I'm like, "I only know one." And so I went to the library, and back when there was no internet and we had to go to that physical building and actually borrow books and look through the set of books and find a book you wanted. And I borrowed a book about card magic, and I started reading it, and I started learning it, and I got into it. And just like, again,
but I think every boy does that at some point.
And that was my point, was that like all my other stories, I looked into it and I practiced secretly and silently at home. And I was.
But you did more than look into it. You actually practiced.
I practiced at home by myself.
Okay.
Because I was now scared to show more, because my first one was so successful. I didn't want to show something that I just read from a book that I wasn't sure if it was going to work out the way it was. And so my mother, the wonderful person she is, she started telling me to go perform and publicly.
Wait, she actually supported you doing magic?
It wasn't like I was going out to Third Street Promenade and doing street magic, but there was a talent show at school.
Not yet.
If there was a talent show at school, she'd ask me to perform. If we ever have parties, she'd ask me to perform.
Okay.
If we went to parties, she'd ask me to perform. And I hated that process. I'm not sure if I'm an introvert.
Was that her way of being proud of you, like you did magic?
I think it was definitely, everyone else had the son and daughters that play piano, violin, all those things. But hey, my son can do magic. So she would really, get me on stage. What I didn't realize was that it started giving me the courage to get on stage and do public speaking. And I've bombed. And at that time, it was the most terrifying experience. I remember
okay, so let's talk about how you bombed.
4th grade, Mrs. Hack's class, we did a talent show. And I have no idea why I said okay to my mom, because I knew I was going to be performing in front of the whole school.
Right.
And but there was another person that wanted to do magic with me, so I said, okay, I can share the stage so it won't be as nerve-wracking. And I had to figure out a finale, and so I did what I thought was going to be my best effect. And the effect was, and the whole, I don't even remember the rest of it, because what happened was when I was doing my finale,
it's so traumatizing. You blocked it out of your memory.
Yeah, my finale was I had somebody in the audience pick a card, and I was going to make it appear inside of a milk carton.
Okay.
And it was pre-set up and everything like that. But I must have forced the wrong card to the person, because I'm supposed to force a particular card so it can appear in the milk carton.
Right.
So when I finished, I opened the milk
That's a
carton.
magic secret right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone. So I opened up my milk carton and I took out the card and I go, "Is this your card?" And the kid, being a kid, said no. And my face just fell, and I didn't know how to react, because it's the first time somebody said no. And I went,
you should say, why you lie?
So the teacher next to her went, no, that was his card. That was his card. And such relief came over me that I'd never even processed and thought about that the teacher was covering for me.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the school.
Do you remember the name of that teacher?
No, I don't.
Oh, that's super.
Because I was so relieved that it was that person's card that I just wanted to get off stage.
Right.
I've also done one much later on in life where I was performing. I was supposed to perform in an outdoors venue for 1,000 people.
Oh my God.
And they had told, we had gone to the venue to look at it. They had set up 500 chairs in front of the stage. But my magic usually tends to be more up close and smaller props.
Right.
But I said, it's okay. I'll perform for the 500 people here. Everyone else, just sorry, you just don't get to see. When I showed up there, number one, that day it was 97 degrees and I'm wearing a 3-piece suit. No coverings of any sort, like awnings or coverings or anything.
So you're baking.
Yeah, and I step on stage and nobody's sitting in the seats because they didn't put any cover over the seats either. So nobody sat in the seats. There were probably at most 7 to 10 people sitting in the front row. They're VIPs and whatnot. Everyone else was actually about 50 yards away in nearby trees because they just wanted some shade and they just take a look at what's happening. It was just way
too hot, right?
Yeah, I had about 15 minutes worth of effects prepared because that's what they asked for. I did one effect and I said, I need somebody to pick a card. Well, nobody's volunteering. So I pointed off 50 yards away. I go, you little girl that's raising your hand, come on down. And so I waited about 30 seconds as she ran across 50 yards. I had her pick of the card. I said, would you show those people over there? And she ran another 50 cards to show them. Came back and I shuffled the cards and I did my thing and I got her card. I couldn't tell if there was applause. I didn't care. I said, thank you for having me. Have a good day. And I walked off the stage.
But at least you performed the trick.
I did, and it worked. But again, it was the most.
It was like
there was no point.
Yeah, it was so hot. So I see you brought some things here, and I want to make sure that people understand that you've actually incorporated that magic work into the work that you do, or even so maybe on the Rubik's Cube side as well, right? Because that's magical in itself.
Well, so other than the fact that magic gave me a way to build self-confidence and do public speaking and so forth, it also taught me, as I reflected on it, to be more well-rounded. I'm a big believer in the Renaissance man idea. And I think we need it now more so than more. And
well-rounded meaning not about working out, but like just being.
But that as well. It goes back to the sharpening the saw idea. But so magic was something that that gave me a way to talk to a student, to show something that they haven't seen before. And so I started enjoying learning new things. And so magic was one of the things I enjoyed learning. Also, just because, well, in college it was a nice way to start a conversation. I don't drink alcohol, so I'm not exactly the fun person you go to at parties, but I am the magic guy. So that
double D magic guy.
Yeah. But
that could have been a cool title.
That could have been a cool title. Except you're a dude. That had its own drawbacks too. So I was performing at a carnival one time, and this nice couple, we were all college students, and this gentleman and his lady friend came over, and I started doing magic. And the girl was, and by the way, when you learn magic, one of the things you learn about magic is that most of the time the ladies love the magic, the gentlemen not so much, because it's like intimidating. It's like, I can't do that trick. It shows them off, right? So they don't like it as much. So I'm performing, and sure enough, the lady was, yay, great, and the gentleman was, And after a while, he started getting fed up, so he started whispering in her ear. I assume he was telling her that's what he does. I'm pretty sure he was whispering that this guy's really good looking and really great. But so
of course he was. Come on.
So I took it a next level further.
He gave you his number afterwards.
No, so I took it a step further. So I asked the lady, I go, would you mind if I showed you something? So I'll pretend you're the lady. I go, would you mind if I show you something?
Sure.
Let me see your hand. Okay, so check this out. Now watch. Is it okay if I do this? Is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah, this doesn't do anything. It just feels good. And so obviously the gentleman was not pleased with what I did. He yanked her away. So it's a good conversation starter, but it can also put a lot of people on the defensive.
So it's the context, and it's how you manage that. Did you learn how to then navigate around that and be more cognizant of, okay, this is a couple, I'm gonna do it to the dude instead? Again, it's, so you would go to the guy and say, can I do this to you?
No. That was me being immature and wanting to retaliate. Yeah.
So you were a bit of an instigator in that moment.
I was. Cool. And so if you're watching, I apologize if that was you and your lady at that time.
Hey, it's on YouTube. It's going to be there forever. So eventually he might. Do you have a name? Do you have this? All right. So you brought some items here today. Is it possible for you to do anything in front of the camera? I know for those of you watching YouTube, I'm just like, oh, everybody loves to see a little bit of magic. Is it possible? Or
I brought the cars just because I figure you might be talking about it. But one of the things I've always wanted to do was be a radio. So one of our friends said, oh, if it's going to be on radio, does that mean we don't get to see magic? And believe it or not, I've always wanted to be a radio magician.
Huh. What does that? How does that work? I mean, do you magically make people hear things that they shouldn't be hearing?
It would just be your imagination. It would be purely imaginative. And I would do the most absurd effects. Like I would say so see this egg way, I'm about to turn it into a car, and we would add some sound effects, and poof, all of a sudden it's a car, and we play along, and I would be the most amazing radio magician ever because
with tons of FX running in the background.
Well, just a lot of sound effects and so forth.
Right.
But so I don't have, but one of the things that I do talk about is so thanks for putting me on the spot. See if we can see this. All right. So what we'll do.
So for those of you who are listening and not watching the video, go to YouTube so you can see this even if it's after the fact. So
all right. So what we'll do is we'll do something called all right. So first of all, what we'll do is we'll cut this in half, 26 cards, and then we do what's called a perfect shuffle, which means I've put exactly every other one card on top of each other and perfectly.
That itself is it's magical.
So whoops. You didn't see that part. So one of the things about that, and this is something I talk about in my Rubik's Cube class, which is most people see that and they think, oh my goodness, that's so awesome. That's so amazing. I can never do that. Well, actually, like most things, it's really just about practice. It looks cool, but it took me a lot of practice.
Right.
First thing you have to be able to do is cut exactly 26 cards. So the part of the practice is you have to continue practicing. So
just having that feel for what it.
Yeah. So keep it in front of the camera and count out how many cards that is. That should be exactly 26 cards. You might want to count out loud
7,
so they don't think
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
20,
wow.
26?
Yeah.
Okay. So being able to cut exactly 26, then you want to be able to figure out the pressure as to which you can, and again, it's a lot of practice. So being able to do that. So it's exactly.
Holy cow. For those of you who aren't watching this, he basically just with one motion removed 26 cards, lined it up. I counted out 26 and he just inserted alternative, like, how do I even describe it? Alternate.
It's perfectly it's called the perfect shuffle.
The perfect shuffle.
And so like a lot of businesses that people see, they see the finished product and they see the beauty of, oh my goodness, everything's perfect.
Right.
But what they don't understand is the amount of practice it goes into being able to feel and see 26 cards exactly, and 26 cards. So
so that's a great example to kind of convey to help people understand, to really own their value in the years and money and time and energy that they invested in becoming as good as what they do with their product and service that they do in their business. That there is, like you're saying, most people just see the end product. They go, wow, okay, cool. But they don't realize how much time you've actually spent in that. I know a little bit because I know one trick, which is the coin drop, the French drop.
The French drop.
Okay. Yes. And that's the only one I know because that's the only one I've been doing all my life. But I know I have to do it, and it's yeah, you're right. There's a lot of, and people don't realize that when you have and you don't even notice it yourself, right? Because you're so passionate about it. Look at that, just being able to fan it open like that. You have me do that, then we'll be picking up cards for the rest of the show.
A fan is always also fun to do because a lot of people again say I can never do that. Well, yes, you totally can. you just need to pick up a deck of cards. You also need to understand the deck of cards that you pick up is important too. Right. You can't do it with the deck that you've been playing with the last 2 years. A newer deck, it slides much better. It slides much easier. Then the rest of it is figuring out the pressure as to which you do it so that it comes out nicely. But this goes back to, again, when I learned this myself, I realized this can be applied to students. This can be applied to entrepreneurs. This can be applied to everyone.
So you took a hobby and utilized. So listen up, entrepreneurs, for those of you who have hobbies, and don't think that it has any correlation to adding value to what you do in your business. You took your hobby that you grew up doing because you loved it. You're fascinated by it. Okay. And then you found a way to incorporate into your business to actually help the kids understand what you're teaching them better.
Yeah, of course. That's.
Or am I totally off base with that?
No. One of my. So
let's bring up the next cool thing. This is the Rubik's Cube.
So as some of you saw from our last series, look at the green.
Cool. It disappeared, and now you can see the background. Oh, whoa, that's cool.
And we're done. So
blue.
One of the part of my money story happened to me when.
That's the magic right there.
Yeah.
That's the magic I brought to the floor today.
Yeah, that's cool. So part of my money story that I realized happened when I was in 3rd grade. Our family had a restaurant, and I think some of you who saw our other production broadcast.
Oh, that was in the Money Lab, yeah. The Facebook group.
Yeah, and so I had sort of talked about this.
Can I mix this up?
Yeah, please. In 3rd grade, I was taught how to do the Rubik's Cube from our chef. My family had a restaurant, and the chef taught me how to do the Rubik's Cube, and so I would come home from school and I would do the Rubik's Cube in the corner of the restaurant when there was usually because I got off of school around 3 o'clock. So I would go into the restaurant and I would sit in the corner and do my homework, and when I would finish, I would play with the Rubik's Cube. You're around 3 to 5. You don't have much guests coming in for dinner. But one day somebody came in around 4 or 5-ish or so, and he saw me playing with the Rubik's Cube and he said, "Hey, you can do that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I can mix it up and you can do that?" And I said, "Yeah." And so he said, "Okay, give it to me." And he mixed it up and he goes, "Okay, do it." And so I said, "Okay." And so I did it. And he goes, wait, hold on. I didn't know that you were that good. So he took this and he just kept going at it. And he was at it for about a good 5 minutes or so. And his food had come, and I said, "Are you gonna eat your food?" He goes, "Shh, don't bother me." So he was mixing it up, and he goes, "Okay, if you do it now, I'll give you $1." I'm a 3rd grader. I'm like, sweet. Okay. So I did it, and I said, "Thank you." And so I got my first $1. He goes, no, hold on. And so he's completely just wants to
stump you. Right?
Yeah. So he takes it and he's just going at it, and he's going at it for about a good 5 minutes. And he goes, "Okay, if you can do it now, I'll give you $5. He takes out $5, put it on the table, and so okay. And I did it. I earned my first $6.
$6.
Yeah. And
you should run a whole little anyway.
I couldn't, because remember, the money story was that money was a bad thing. Right.
So if you tried to make a business out of it at the time, you would have been like shunned from the family, where the belief was that.
Most likely. And I think the only reason I was able to take his money because he offered, and it wasn't like I tricked him into it.
Right.
But what I realized years later was that doing this, I got enjoyment out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was people willing to pay me to watch me do this.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
And so this really.
And now you can do it. How fast can you do it now? What's your latest clock speed? Because if you look, for those of you who have not seen the Rubik's Cube sensation out there that is all over YouTube, when you're done watching this, okay, so don't leave yet. When you're done watching this, go YouTube it and see all the amazing.
So my time is called sub 60, which is I'm usually under a minute.
Okay.
Once again, going back to the practice thing, and then putting me on the spot, it shouldn't mess me up, but
okay. Well, we're nearing the end of the show, so guess what? We're gonna you're gonna finish the show with one of these? Well, I mean, so I mixed this one up.
Okay.
Right. So I actually had a hand in mixing stuff, so making sure I tried to do the best I can to make sure there's 2 colors next to each other, and we're gonna put it on camera starting
You have a timer? Now, when I do this, if I have to talk, it takes my concentration away.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to.
I'll just count out loud. Ready?
No, okay. Hold on a second. All right, ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
Oh my goodness, what happened?
26.
Oh, there it is.
27,
Okay.
28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. Oh, 59!
Clearly.
Boom! So for those of you who aren't, hey, look at, I have the magic side up.
So they can't tell if that's. Oh, there he goes. There he goes. Okay. You gotta show the other side, otherwise they think.
Okay,
otherwise we green screened it.
So okay, cool. So for those of you who didn't catch it, this is something that you want to watch on YouTube if you saw it on. But he actually did this as I'm counting right in front of our eyes in terms of doing this, and he actually taught me how to do it in a minute and a half. And this is a whole separate discussion because I stopped practicing. I can't do it anymore. At least not for now. I have to get back on it and just relearn it again. But it's like riding a bike. But you've been doing it for so long right now that it's actually probably kind of ingrained in you, right?
It is, like I said, but since you're putting me on the spot, yeah,
right.
yeah. But this is one of the things that I truly believe that students and adults should learn. Not necessarily to do the Rubik's Cube, but it's a good tool for people to understand that you can do anything.
Right.
You just have to understand the tools and the ways to become successful, and whether it's a Rubik's Cube or whether it's a piano or a business, it's not difficult,
right?
But it requires, like you said, practice.
Right.
It requires the ability to accept mistakes that you're going to be making, and the ability to get up again and continue.
Right.
And so that's really what Rubik's has taught us with this.
Yeah. You know, what I like is also the way you teach it. It actually creates, it reminds us how important is it to create systems to create success.
Yes.
Systems around learning and systems around application of things so that you can create systematic success. I mean, you can create reliable, predictable success. And you've been able to kind of go into companies and businesses as well to teach them leadership and actually effectively show them, hey, incorporating processes and breaking it down to this is actually what you need to become more successful, both as a leader or just as an entrepreneur or anything like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Straight A's mission is to create team-based programs to help individuals learn, grow, and succeed. And that could be done with the Rubik's Cube, and that's my favorite thing to teach. But it could be done a lot of other ways. We could use Lego. We can use. Yeah, who doesn't love playing with Lego, right?
Right.
And but again, the whole point is learning should be fun, and it shouldn't be boring.
And even as adults, it should be fun.
It should.
Do you think that has a correlation to how successful, how much easier it is to become successful if you have fun doing what you're doing in your business?
I honestly do. The old adage that it's not work if you love it, right? So
if you have to work anyway.
Yeah,
might as well love doing it.
Yeah, and so, but you brought up something that I just thought about. I mean, the story about learning when we were going to school was that it wasn't fun. It was the learning aspect. Perhaps the social aspect might have been fun for most of us, but the learning aspect, it probably wasn't as much fun because we sat through stuff and we had to listen to somebody, the sage on the stage, talk.
Right.
So you just and I think that is the issue now with education is that we think education means that a kid has to sit there and listen to math and English teachers.
Right. That's why we want to deliver value on the Money Lab show and incorporate humor. Fun. It has to be fun.
Yeah, it has to be fun. And so I think success won't come if you're drudging it.
Right. No, absolutely. Now, we could probably go on for another half hour or so, but believe it or not, it's top of the hour already.
Wow.
It is one. So I want to make sure that people who want to connect with you, or people who have kids that could potentially learn from you, or people that want to just hire you and speak in front of 1,000 people who are out there on the beach under a hot summer's day with no shade, how do they reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
You can email me. It's the quickest way, straightaconsulting@gmail.com. I have a Facebook page, facebook.com/straightaconsulting.
Okay.
And so that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Yeah. And when we're done with this, just go to the comments section and just post all those links. You have my permission. Just post all the links that you can.
Awesome.
So that way people can reach it. And any books that you recommend too, post it on there as well, because I think you are well read and you probably have a lot of books that have really kind of made an impact. So it'd be good to kind of share with people kind of what kind of library you have too.
I love to do that.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Thank you for having me on the show today. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're finally on YouTube. Yeah. You can say, "Hey, I'm on YouTube." You got to show a little bit about your acumen and your abilities on a variety of your crafts, and you got to share gemstones for entrepreneurs on how to become actually successful, having fun what you're doing, and moving away and saying that, and also identifying that, hey, everybody has a bad story. We just have to identify what that is so we can actually say, oh, okay, I got to pay attention to that, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much, Chief, for coming on. I mean, you and I have done a few things together and stuff like that, but I've been wanting to get you on the show when we shifted the kind of like the focus to kind of help as many entrepreneurs as possible in a variety of different levels. And doesn't matter, you don't have to be a multi-millionaire to be on the show. You just have had to have a story that you've traversed and you've crossed and you've overcome to create success that you define in your life, right? So thank you so much for coming down. I know it's a bit of a trek, but hey, it was fun to be here, right?
Oh, I had a blast. Thank you for having me. And we'll see you the next time.
Yeah, cool. So that's our show for this week. Again, if you found this episode to be valuable and know of someone else that could benefit from what we talked about today with Chi, or you just want someone to enjoy the magic that he brings to the world, share it. And if you're a fan, another way to pay it forward is to rate and review us on iTunes, Spreaker, we're now on Stitcher, or like the episode on Google Live. Honestly, that's one of the best ways for us to, reach more people and how we get the message out there and how to create that six-figure lifestyle. Okay, so cool. That's basically a wrap. Take this week to apply the knowledge from today. Have an amazing week being an entrepreneur, entrepreneuring out there. And we'll catch you next week on the Money Lab live podcast, where we will have Dr. Rodney Rugi, chiropractor and functional optimization specialist, be on the show. And you don't want to miss that because he's phenomenal in what he does. Okay, so this is Wei and Chi from the Six Figure Academy signing off. All right, YouTube. We out. Like the background? That's we're down the beach.
Tube.
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 All right, guys. See you next week.